Today on Community Watch, we have the locally famous, maybe beyond locally famous, Coach Charles Smith. He's going to talk about mentoring and, of course, a little about football. It's a great conversation. You need to see it. Community Watch starts now. Welcome to Community Watch. I am John Hershey, and my guest today is someone you probably know, or at least you know of his work, Coach Charles Smith. Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here, Doc. Thanks for having me
Well,
again.
it's always good to see you.
Yes,
always
sir.
good to see you. I know that we are going to talk about your organization, I guess is the right word, building positive families. But before we get there, I know that let's just go through the list of what all you do for the city schools, because you are a very busy man.
Yes, sir. Most people know me from being a head football coach at Rome Middle. I've been there doing that for many years. It's a kind of a passion of mine. I really enjoy it. Love that age group of kids, love working with them, and it's been a blessing to me to be able to do that for so long. I'm also the behavior interventionist at Anna K. Davey Elementary School, and I work with kids that might be having some behavior issues. We try to develop behavior plans that will help them do better in the classroom, socially and emotionally. We also work with the teachers and the parents to help in that process. So it also feeds a passion of mine, and I really love that work.
Well, let's start there and talk a little bit about your work at Anna K. How did you get into that? And tell me a little bit about how you approach dealing with a behavior issue.
Well, I got into that by simply having a passion. I have been in social service work pretty much all my life. I had worked with a nonprofit agency called, called the Commission on Children and Youth.
Yeah.
And with that organization, I was in charge of a fatherhood program called Mailed for Dads.
I remember it very well.
Right. That organization was funded through the governor's office, and it was a real popular program for many years across the state. And we went on through that program to have the best program in the state of Georgia. We serviced over 120 fathers. We helped them from issues like child support. We helped them with parenting issues. We had parenting classes. We did a number of things, job searching. We did a number of things to help dads become better fathers. So through that work, that led me through the school system where, I was hired as kind of like a mentor, where I went from school to school and kind of mentored kids and worked with kids that had issues or, were dealing with some trouble. And then that kind of led to the behavior interventionist work. So it's all just fell in place. And it's something that I really enjoy doing.
Are you, and this is a question actually that a lot of teachers, I'm sure, have to answer, that they get asked a lot, and that is, are you seeing changes or differences in student behavior, or has it been pretty consistent over the years?
Well, yeah, I mean, you definitely see changes in behavior and how kids do things academically. Kids grow, and sometimes, I know as educators, as parents, and I tell parents all the time, we want instant results, and a lot of times that doesn't happen like that. But over the course of time, things do get better. Now, obviously, nothing is 100%. There are some kids and even adults that you just can't help, but it doesn't deter you from trying to help, and it doesn't affect your attitude when it comes time to help the next person. The biggest way to help people uh, in any age is building a relationship and getting to know them and kind of meeting them where they're at. You know, every person has a story, and a lot of times our stories is what leads to our failures or even our successes. And some of our kids, as well as parents, they didn't start the race where they should have started because of different situations, things that happen along the course of their lives. They didn't get the same opportunity. And a lot of times, especially, excuse me, especially with our children, it's not their fault. You know, I tell parents all the time, your child, they come to the place where you're at and what you provide for them and what you give to them. I mean, I used to tell dads all the time, a great example that I used was if you're going to have a child and when that child comes around, if you need a pair of shoes and that kid needs a pair of shoes, you got to be willing to get that kid the shoes before you get the shoes. It's called sacrifice and putting that kid first. And I think a lot of times in the course of our life, that doesn't get relayed properly.
One thing you said that really struck home with me was just the importance of building a relationship.
Right.
And really, I think that may be the key to everything you do. But it certainly is what is behind the success of any mentoring that might happen. I know that it does seem like I'm not so sure about the elementary school level, but I know other levels of school and certainly college, a lot of the connections are made with technology now. But really, the relationships between two human beings still the answer to everything.
You know, there's no question. In this society today, I think that gets lost because I think we want to give materialistic things to try to sway our children or sway people, to move in a certain direction by giving them something. But in reality, man, people want to be loved. Our kids want to be loved. They want somebody to put their hand around their neck and tell them they love them and spend quality time with them. Walking in the park, throwing a baseball, going out to McDonald's and just eating a hamburger and sitting down and talking, sharing some of your stories about your life and things that happen. I know, my kids are, my son is 35 now, my daughter's 33, but sometimes when we do get together, we talk about me and some of my old stories, and they just laugh because it's really funny, to them to hear those stories about me. So it's about relationships. I mean, there's no other way around it. If you build a quality relationship, you get a situation where people and kids, they got to trust you. Because what you got to remember is a lot of the kids and people that I've worked with, people have let them down. They haven't been able to trust people. And once you get that shield up like that, it's hard to trust anybody, because a lot of times people, they tell you things just to pacify you. It's not really sincere. And that hurts, that puts a wound in you, and it makes you not want to trust people. And a lot of our kids have been let down in that way, and adults too.
I wonder what it is that has led you to this kind of work. I mean, I met you when you were doing the fatherhood program. What is it that directed you to doing that kind of work, mentoring, the fatherhood program, and what you're doing now? They're all related.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's strange how that works, but a lot of those kids that I talked to, I was one of them. And I get kind of emotional talking about this, but it's the truth. I never met my father. I tell people all the time, the difference in me being successful was an aunt and uncle raising me
Yeah.
and choosing to love me makes a difference.
Yeah.
And so this is a way for me to give back in more ways than people realize. So I've got a story, and I tell it a lot because I want, I can remember speaking to a group of kids, and we were talking about spending time with our father. Excuse me, I've been had bronchitis, so that's why my voice is like this.
Yeah.
But and I told the room, it was like 12 kids, and I said, man, I've never seen my father. And man, the room just got silent.
Yeah.
They couldn't believe it. It's like, what? They just couldn't believe it, And I said, yeah, I understand where you're at. And that gives you motivation to want to do it.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to know you to know that your heart is definitely in the work you do.
Thank you.
And that program, the fatherhood program, was so impactful for so many who participated.
Oh, yeah.
But I was so glad to see that even when that program ended, you didn't end. I mean, you just turned a direction and continued a different way.
Right.
So let's talk about your work coaching at middle school. How long have you been doing that now?
I think about 25 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Yeah. And we've only got about a minute before our break, so we'll continue this after the break. But I don't know if you realize. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and say, I'll have to check with Coach Smith first, and then I'll let you know. I don't know how many times a week I may hear that. I'll check with Coach Smith, and then I'll let you know. You are a force. Do you realize you're a force?
Yeah, I try to be. Yeah, but it's all love.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I have no doubt.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a break here and then come back, and we'll start off talking about your coaching, but then we will definitely get to a discussion of building positive families. All right, so stay with us. We'll be back with Coach Smith again right after this.
most affordable bachelor's degree in Northwest Georgia is right here at Georgia Highlands College. High quality and career focused. That's what you can expect at GHC. Apply today at highlands.edu.
Welcome back to Community Watch. We are having a conversation with Coach Charles Smith, who, among many other things that he's involved in, is the football coach at Rome Middle School. And you've been doing that for, you guessed, a quarter of a century.
Well, I tell you what, this is what I tell people. I've worked for every head coach at Rome High School.
Yeah.
So that gives you some kind of idea, how long that I've been there.
Well, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the experience of coaching at the middle school, because I know for a fact that at that level, the students, the players, take football it is so important to them and so serious to them. I suppose that remains true in high school, but to see the young men, the middle school students so devoted to that. I know as an English teacher, if they were that devoted to English, I wouldn't know how to respond. I wouldn't know how to deal with it.
No question. No question.
But I know you are very serious about the students doing well in their classes as well. So it's not just football for you. It's just you talk about your experience and why you like that age group. And
well, having grown up here and play football at East Rome, and everybody know about my football background, going to the University of Georgia and whatnot. I understood the importance of, let's say, my coach, Jerry Sharp, and the way he did things and what he instilled in us, mainly as far as being a man. And I've just taken that, and I think I've ramped it up a little bit, because our program it's pretty serious, but it's serious because I'm wanting to get the young men's attention that just being good in football is not good enough. You got to be a good person. You got to do good in school. You got to be a community person. You got to care about other people. You got to do things consistently the right way, because it's the right thing to do. Also, I want them to understand that when you step in this light, it puts you in a different place. People look at you more. People look up to you more. I can remember complaining to my uncle one time. I said, man, everywhere I go, somebody's watching me or want to play football. Now, most places I went, I was the biggest person in the room, which had a lot to do with it. But after a while, you realize that you're a presence. And if you're going to be a presence, you want to be a good presence, not a bad presence. Mm. So I want our kids to understand that, and that, listen, this is more about life than it is football. Football is a tool. I think so many of our young men, they grow up and they make everything about football. And which is another reason why, I like doing this kind of work, because it gives me an opportunity to go at kids in another light, because there is more than football. Matter of fact, football is a very small piece of it, but it's the tool that can guide you and lead you, because all football is the game of life. It's the greatest game in the world, in my opinion, but it's the game of life. You get kicked down, you got to get up. You don't win every week. Sometimes a guy in front of you is just better than you. but you don't give up. You keep going. You keep fighting. You know, you keep reaching for a way to be successful. And that's what we try to do, along with I like working with the high school coaches. I get on board with what their plan is, and our goal is to implement whatever plan our high school coach has and with our kids so they can go to the next level and be successful. So you've got to be on the same page there, and that is something that I've always done, whoever I've worked for. Mm-hmm. So it's very important, man, to me, very important.
Yeah. How many players do you have? How many people are on your team? Not just the active, the first string, but how many students are you working with at the middle school?
We roughly have 7th and 8th grade. We have about, I would say, 75 kids or so every year. Mm-hmm. And then there's the 6th grade team, too, that I'm not directly responsible for, but I do have a hand in helping them. So that's another 30 kids or so. So you're talking about close to 100 kids.
Yeah. Do they all continue with athletics into high school? Or are there some that you feel like for whatever reason they may not continue with sports, but they've learned something important?
Yes, I have a lot of kids, man, that didn't make it in football that they'll see me in the community and they'll, hey man, I enjoyed it, thank you for what you did. Because listen, I'm coaching some kids that I'm coaching some fathers' kids that I coached now.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, my whole coaching staff, I coach most of them. Which is amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. It's nice, isn't it?
It's really nice,
yeah.
Because you have to commend Rome for making an effort to bring guys back. Mm-hmm. Back and employing them and putting them back in the system because, those are the kids that's gonna embrace it, and because they know what it done for them.
Yeah. All right, I want to make a shift to a discussion of building positive families because I know that this is something that you started
10 years ago.
10
it's
years
been a
ago.
decade.
And it, I know, kind of focuses on these same values and the same mentoring that what we've been talking about in other elements of your experience and life coaching. Tell me a little bit about what this organization is and why you felt it needed to be here.
Well, the story goes like this. When Healthy Families went out and the state stopped funding that fatherhood program, there were numerous of people in the community that was continuing to call me for information, for services, and I'll never forget this. And my wife, Regina Smith, she was a parent trainer for parents as teachers for like 30 years. She's retired from Rome City Schools now, but on the side, she was working with parents as teachers out of St. Louis the whole time, training parents and training educators on how to train parents. So we actually was out in California to see my son play when a football game. They was playing USC, and we was coming back, and we were talking about all the people calling us asking for information, and I spoke with a lady, and she said, y'all should find a nonprofit, So between helping fathers and helping kids and people calling us, and then my wife's experience with parents as teachers and all the information and experience she had with being a strengthening families trainer. She had a lot of information and experience. We decided to reach out, and we went to our church, Holy Trinity Lutheran Church at 3000 Garden Lakes Boulevard. They decided to partner with us to house the program. We used the facility there for all our classes and workshops and different things that we've done, and they've been tremendous over the years with supporting us, members and people in the community. So that was how it came about. And, Regina, my wife, has had a big place in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of her passion, too, because we kind of came up in similar ways, and we understand, what people go through, so our hearts are in the right place with this. Mm. So that's pretty much how we kicked it off.
And I know that you have a trip that you want to take some kids on. You want to talk about that and why you decided this would be a good experience?
That was something that we started several years before COVID. We took a group of kids to New York City. We took a group of kids to Los Angeles.
Wow.
Yes, and then we had taken another group to D.C. before. So those are the trips we had been on through COVID. So now we got through COVID, and we didn't do it for like 3 or 4 years where we didn't take a trip. But what I realized was that there's nothing like experience and being able to see things that you might not ever get to see. And I think blessing kids with the opportunity to go see things that they see on TV that ordinarily they would never get to see, I think that's important. It's just like bringing successful people around to speak to kids. That's something I really enjoy doing. I know we've had several people, whether it's pro athletes, teachers, professors, our superintendent, different people come speak to our kids that we're working with. And I do that with my football team because I think it's important, that they see success.
Yeah.
And if you get an opportunity I can remember being in New York City in Times Square with 15 boys from Anna K. Davey Elementary. And there were people in Times Square coming up to us telling us that they couldn't believe how good they were acting.
Yeah.
And these are a lot of times, you take kids that people say, well, they're at risk. You can't trust them or you can't do this. And they'll say all these negative things about them, but in actuality, those kids you can trust. They just need to know that they can trust you.
We just have about a minute left. I know you're raising money for this.
Mm-hmm.
For folks that want to help support you in taking a group of kids to Washington, D.C., how do they reach out to you? How can they give?
Well, they can reach us on phone at 706-346-7205, or they can mail checks to Building Positive Families, P.O. Box 843. That's in Shannon, Georgia, 30172.
Okay. Coach, it is a thrill to get to talk to you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And you were such a busy man, I almost have to get you on TV to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And I look forward to working with you at Foundation Camp this year.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
And thank you for being with us this week on Community Watch. We will see you next time.